So my name is Uri, and I want to talk with you about Angular-Meteor. And I have 4 modest goals for this talk. So one is to show you Angular-Meteor so you can write Angular-Meteor apps. The second thing is to show you Angular 2.0 Meteor so you can write Angular 2.0 Meteor apps. The third thing is to show you a migration path from Angular 1 to Angular 2. And the fourth thing is to make you become a full stack developers. And those are very modest goals for one talk. And I'm really gonna solve it. It's not like a, just like to put it on there. So I'll start with the first goal, Angular-Meteor. So 2 things I want you to know if you haven't heard about Angular-Meteor yet. The first thing is that you can write AngularJS applications on Meteor. And the second thing is that you can use your existing applications and you can use all your third-party libraries, whatever you're using. And it's just like you add it as a service. So let's look at just some code to get us started. And it might be like a little bit okay. So I'm going to show you like a very, very simple app, just like a parties app. You will see that all of my examples are parties for some reason. And it's just a simple app. I'm adding a new party and I'm writing some kind of description and I have a new party and I can delete it and everything. But obviously, if I'm opening another client here, nothing will sync, right? I'll add that party and there's no communication, there's no nothing. So let's just go to that app. It's a very, very simple app. It's just like I have 2 roots, like parties and party details that I can edit those roots. And I have a very simple controller that holds parties. Now I want to just add Meteor into my app. So the only thing I need to do actually is to call the $Meteor service, and that's it. And now that's nice. I have the $Meteor service, but I don't have any server code running. So let's just write a server. So the first thing I'm going to start with writing a server is to actually define my parties on my database. So let's just define a new Mongo collection, which right now we're working with Mongo, but we can actually work with other databases as well. And let's name it parties, like really nice name. And that's it. And now I have a new Mongo collection, parties that I can work with. But now we need to start writing our server code, we need to start writing our APIs, and we need to expose this thing into our client. So the cool thing about Meteor is that I can just define a regular JavaScript object that's called parties. And this object right now will exist everywhere. It will exist on the client side and on the server side. And I can manipulate my code and I can manipulate my data and get my data everywhere on my application. So right now, the only thing I need to do to bind this collection on my database to my parties regular application is to do meteor.collection and to bind it to that object. And you see that I'm on the client, but even WebStorm knows that these parties exist also on the client. So let's go back to my app and let's just add a new party. Let's do it here. And you see that it's added on all the clients. And that's nice. I can also delete this party and I can add another party here. Just writing stuff, and it happens instantly everywhere. Now, let's do another thing. Let's just, by the way, the only thing I need to do I haven't changed anything from my existing code before. So the only thing I'm doing is I'm pushing a new object to the array. I don't need to learn some new API or something. I'm just pushing to the array. So that's cool, but now let's let's try to edit the party. So I'm just going to add, again, the Meteor service. And this time I want to bind it into an object, like a single object from our parties collection. And I will identify this particular object by its ID that I get from a UI router, like just how would you do it in any other application. And now I'm going to go here and go inside this party, and I'm going to edit it and write stuff, and you see that it's updating instantly everywhere. Now, let's say it's a form, and let's say I don't want everything to update in real time, although it's pretty cool. I can just send here another flag and just call it false, and then I'll get like two other functions that like save and reset, that I can reset from the database and save the object, and it will instantly become like a regular form. And that's actually all you need to do to have like a live application. Now I can deploy it in one command line to like the servers, and it will work. And that's nice, and that's like, I mean, that's pretty impressive, and it saves a lot of code, but like Aaron's talk, I like when stuff are open, and I like to show you what's actually happening on the backend. And this is not like a magic box that you can't touch. It's all open source, and you can switch everything inside. So I want to touch a little bit about that. So what is Meteor? It's a platform, a modern app architecture platform for building real-time applications and collaborative applications. And those are all big words, but what does it actually mean? It means that the Meteor team actually looked at applications like Uber or like Google Docs or Gmail and said, let's build a framework that actually takes those best practices from all those big teams to build a new kind of framework, like that let's say if I'm writing a Google Doc and I see all the people writing it in the same time, I don't wait for someone to click save or merge the changes or everything. Everything happens in real time. And let's say I'm writing a draft on Gmail, it doesn't matter if I'm offline now, I just write the Gmail, I can type as fast as I can, and it will sync later on. So it's just a platform on top of Node, but it's introducing like new stuff that those are actually stuff that are used already with large teams like Gmail and stuff like that, but and teams like that, like live queries and client-side caching and syncing those client-side caching and real-time communication protocol and multi-platform build system, so you can build for server and browser and mobile stuff. Now, those, I'm going to touch just a few of those to show you that it's not like a magic, and you can actually change everything inside it, and it's completely open source. So one interesting thing about those types of applications, let's talk about Gmail, and when you're writing a draft. So let's say you're in Gmail and you're writing a draft, let's say on your mobile device, and there's no network, or the network is slow, then your draft is actually saving everywhere, but when you're typing, you don't wait for anything to happen. And you could look at like what I showed you like before here, like when I'm tapping here and I'm changing the app, then I don't care about the network. I can type as fast as I can. And this like thing happens thanks to a local cache, like a local cache on the client. And this is something that Meteor and Gmail team is doing the same in the same way. So if you're a Gmail front-end developer, you never do a $HTTP request or HTTP request. The only thing you do when the user types in on the draft is that you save it into the local cache. And then because Gmail is a huge team, then someone else is responsible for syncing that into the server. And syncing that into the server, it's a hard problem, but it's also a common problem that Gmail is doing, but then also a lot of other big teams are doing. So Meteor says, okay, let's do the same. We will be your infrastructure team, like Yaki were in Gmail. And I think this is something that when you write mobile apps in Angular, then this is a very big difference that from like calling $HTTP or working with your local cache, then This is why Gmail behaves so nicely and so fast and work with performance of native, and our applications usually don't do it. So you can obviously do it yourself. You can save like instantly to the local cache, like with ng storage or stuff like that, but think about how much things you need to do to take care of the synchronization with the server. There's tons of edge cases, and this is a hard problem, but it's a common problem, so Meteor solves that for you. Another thing, when you look at this modern type of architecture, is real-time communication. So yeah, you can use like all kinds of like Socket.io or all kinds of services that will solve that for you, but this is why we have REST, right? REST is a standard, so it doesn't matter if right now I'm talking to a .NET backend or to an iOS frontend. I don't care. I want to be as flexible as possible. And with WebSockets, it's harder. Like, we don't have standard for WebSockets, and there's all kinds of solutions, but if someone here actually wrote a WebSocket, like, work with the underlying WebSocket, it's like a pile of like, yeah, never mind. It's really, really hard. And Meteor is working on top of a REST, on top of a protocol of WebSockets that's called DDP. And it means that actually you can work with Meteor's front end with the .NET backend, or you can work with a Meteor backend with an iOS front end, and you're not bound to anything. You're not bound to a service or to a tool like Socket.io. So that's something really cool, and there's also more and more people from the industry that are starting to take on DDP as a real-time protocol. Another really cool thing about in the database is that you can actually, right now, if you think how you pull the database data onto your applications, for me it looks like a little bit like jQuery, like I have to explicitly pull the data every time it changes. So Meteor introduced something that's called reactive queries. I call it watch on the database, because I just define my query. It can be like a complex query, it could be an easy query, and then this query will update itself. And think about how much code Angular saved from using jQuery. This is the exact amount of code that you save right now on the server when you use reactive queries. Suddenly you don't need to write all those stuff. You just know that your query will self-update it. So those are just few examples of how Meteor platform looks at this new type of architecture a little bit differently and closer to big teams like Gmail and those stuff. And you can see like the app that I wrote now, it's not magic. It's just like good architecture, and it means that you can write really less code. Now, when you take those stuff like across your stack, then they call it like full stack reactivity. You can call it like 3-way data binding or 4 or 7, because it's like for every layer you have 7-way data binding. So this is why it's working so fast, and without I wrote like no code at all, but everything there is exchangeable. And now when I'm walking back and like trying to, I don't know, take on, a few days ago I took like the first tutorial of the min stack, and I re-implemented it with Angular-Meteor. And the tutorial on the min stack takes 530 lines of code, and with Angular-Meteor it takes 80. And so since I done that, we have like a new sport on our team to take like tutorials from the internet and see how less code we can do that. So for me, and it's still completely open source and still everything is interchangeable. So for me, I'm not going back anymore. How do you start to do that? You just Google Angular-Meteor, and we have tutorials that are completely open source. And for me, when I took on Angular, the biggest help was the tutorial they created. It was so easy, and they showed like code diffs and live examples for each step. So I tried to do the same with Angular-Meteor, but to build a full application with Google Maps and search and pagination across the server and the client. And yeah, and you can just start using that. But wait, someone asked from the audience, what about NPM? So you can still use NPM with Meteor. I don't know why people say that they can. When I started using Meteor, I used NPM and I used Bower. But very quickly, I moved from using those to using their packaging system. And their packaging system is built for a full stack development, which means a lot of small stuff that are changed, that they do differently from NPM, but the biggest thing is version solver. If someone here came from another world that is not the node world, it knows that, let's say in Ruby, let's say if I have two different components that depends on two versions of Angular, then there's a version solver that solves those problems and will introduce you one version. But in NPM, you don't have that. Actually, in Bower, you do it manually. With NPM, you can do it manually if you do some tricks, and if you don't do those tricks, you will get just two versions of Angular, which is not a great thing. So, and also right now we created all the Angular libraries on top of Meteor, so you can just use that. And another thing, what about gulp, right? You like your gulp or grunt or broccoli or webpack or all those stuff. So the way Meteor looks at build tool, they say you are a programmer, and you write like your type of application, right? So your application is from the type of Angular and Meteor or Angular, Meteor, and Ionic. So I'm the package maintainer. I'm responsible of building your packaging system. So there's build process per application type. So think about it. All of our gulp files looks very much alike. There's minification, cache control, source map debugging, concatenating, maybe HTML to JS, ng annotate, ES6 if you want. So you don't need to do that with Meteor. You just add the appropriate package and that's it. Your build process is done. And another thing that's really cool about Meteor's build process is that it's multi-platform. You have packages that are working across platform, like, and I'll show you that in a second. So you have 5,000 community packages on top of this build process. And for me, it's like super packages because let's say if I'm looking at the accounts package, I add just one package and it gives me the database schema, it gives me the server logic, the client logic, and even the forms if I want. Now I can change everything inside, but I can just with one package, I can take care of all of those. So I want to I hate like just talking and not showing anything. So I'm going to do something very simple. I'm going to add a new package, which I call it like a super package. Wait, can you see it now? Yeah. And it's called, I'm just going to add this package. It's called MDG camera. And this will just add camera abilities to my app, which is cool. And let's see how it looks. So the only thing I need to do, I already have the Meteor service. So let's go to our HTML, and I'll just add another button that's called Take Picture. And I'm going to call a scope function that's called Take Picture. Yes. So now let's define this function here. And I'm sorry I'm not going here with the example with the John Papa's style guide, but we do use John Papa's style guide. Don't worry, don't kill me. It's just for the example. So the only thing I need to do right now is just call meteor.getPicture. And this function will actually take a picture, and then in a promise will return the picture's data. And let's say I'll save this data just to my parties app, to just like let's say the first party. And yeah, equals data. And that's it. Now, right now it probably looks to you exactly like, I don't know, like the camera in NG Cordova, which is a really, really cool thing. But Now I'll run this application. Oh, I forgot to add actually the picture to my HTML. Oh, it's already here. So I have an image tag, and it just displays the party's image data. That's all. So let's go to my app. Let's refresh. And I have a take a picture button. So there's no good party without a selfie. So I'm going to take a picture. Now you see that it's taking a picture from my laptop. So let's take a picture. Oh, wait, again. Right? No, wait, let's do it again. Hello? Yeah. Oh, I don't have any party, of course. So, okay, I'm gonna just add a new party. Sorry. Thank you. Another time, we're gonna, okay, let's take a picture. It's getting better every time. And you see that this picture, this great, amazing picture, updated everywhere, and I use my laptop. And that's nice, but we're talking about cross-platform build process here. So let's first of all deploy our app to just like a server. So let's do Meteor deploy. Let's call it ngvegas1.meteor.com. Now, of course, I'm not trusting the network, so I've already done that. But this is one command line that is running. So you can actually now go to this ngvegas.1.meteor.com and destroy my demo, if you want. And you see that I have a server here, and everything is great. And yeah, it's loading. Okay, great. And I'm adding a new party, and it's happening everywhere. And this is deployed version of my app, but there's no good app without a mobile app. So let's run it on my device. And I have an Android device here, but I can do Meteor Run iOS, which will run actually the actual iOS simulator on my computer with one command line, and I can debug it, everything, and it's working against my local host. But I actually want to run against my Android device here, and I want to run it with across to the server that I just deployed. So I can do Meteor run Android device mobile server and what did you call it? ngvegas 1.meteor.com. And now it's deploying on my mobile. So I have two clients here. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for destroying my thing. Okay, I see what you're doing. So please don't like delete the first party right now, okay? But first of all, I'm gonna take my phone and I'm gonna add a new party for my phone. So let's go here. I'm gonna delete all of your parties. And I'm gonna add a phone party. The phone party is mine, okay? From my phone. But I want to take a selfie with you, so let's do a selfie together. Oh, wait. Okay, so do like something funny. And you see, it's everywhere. So this is some of the power that like a multi-platform build process is doing. And this is not like a service or a magic thing. I showed you, it's just like open source thing. And I think when we talk about building bridges, then using complete open source solutions is important, because then someone else can come and improve it, like we did with Angular-Meteor on top of Meteor. So let's go back and to our slides. And I hope now you're like, okay, maybe I should just try it. Okay, the only thing I'm asking you is to to try this thing. Let's move on to my next goal, to write Angular 2.0 Meteor apps. So we worked hard, really hard. We did a lot of thinking and like, what should we do and how should we support the new Angular 2.0 logo? So here is a new logo for Angular 2.0, and I'm proudly presenting that. And after we done that, we moved to the less enjoyable part of, no, I'm kidding, the good part about using Angular 2.0. So right now, using Angular 2.0 is a bit of a moving target, right? There's builds coming up every day, and sometimes you use Tracer, and sometimes you use TypeScript, and it's not actually TypeScript, it's like a certain version of TypeScript. So Meteor, like I told you before, on the package system, this is not your responsibility, this is my responsibility. So we created Angular 2.0 Meteor package, and this gives you like Angular 2.0 working out of the box. Like, we need to take care of like what's actually happened, and like you don't care about that. Like, if there's a new build process, it's my responsibility to update it. And you can update it with the Angular 2 Meteor package versions whenever you want. Another thing is that it's we did, because we have like a full tutorial of Angular 1 and Meteor, we just decided that the best way to learn Angular 2.0 is to show side by side the Angular 1.0 Meteor and the Angular 2.0 Meteor. So we actually created the same app, but in Angular 2. That's nice, but the actual really interesting stuff about Angular 2 is its data and the way it handles data. And actually, Jeff added me to the data team of Angular 2.0, and for me, it's like a kind of a dream come true, because when I started Angular Meteor, my goal was, I was like thinking, how is the Meteor team doesn't talk to the Angular team, and how does the Angular team doesn't talk to the Meteor team? And now suddenly, like the next version, like Meteor is talking to me about their next version, and Angular talking to me about their next version. I'm like, oh my God, this is a bridge, you know? This is like something really big that's happening. Those two communities are working together. And on the technical side, Angular 2 doesn't have scope anymore. And for us, it saves a lot of work, because we can actually bind the data directly to Angular just with zones. So that's what we did. And also, later on, we will move to observables, which for us is natural, because we actually already now, with Angular 1 and Meteor, use observables on top of how we get data from Meteor. And also, we mock observables when we do watch with Angular. If you ever want to look into our source code, you can look into that. Now, let's just look at, again, I don't like just speaking, so let's look at like an example. So again, this is a party example. Oh, those are flamingos. And this is a party example. And this is written in Angular 2.0, which I'll show you the code in a second. But you see that, first of all, I'm logged in. And what you see here, I'm going to sign out. And watch all the forms here that I have, like I have Facebook and login and everything. Those are actually come up with this single line of code accounts package. And this is Blaze. So we can actually work with Angular 2.0 and Blaze, which is Meteor's own UI framework, in the same app. So you don't need to choose, you don't need to care, and yeah, you can also like change those forms into Angular forms. So one cool thing, now I'm not signing in, so I'm not signed in. So if I'll add a packet, I added a party, nothing's supposed to happen. And you see there was a flash. And this flash is actually, this is actually Meteor's latency compensation. Like I deliberately not checking that on the client, I'm only checking the permissions on the server side. But you see that it's happening instantly, and then when I get the server back, it says, oh no, you're not allowed to do that. So let's go here again, and now let's sign in. with my user. And yeah, the resolution is great, but let's add a party and let's make it public. Because on the other client, I'm not signed in. And if I'll add it, you see that again, it's happening instantly everywhere. I can add it, but now let's add a non-public party, like private. And when I'm adding that, you see that it's only happens here and not there. And this is Angular 2.0 completely. So it's called an experiment, but it's not an experiment anymore. And you can go to our website and see everything that we've done here, but you see it's like completely Angular 2.0, and you see that I haven't added anything in the head. You know, it's not, I haven't needed to do anything very special to think, oh, I need this version of Angular and this version of Tracer or not. Like, we took care of that for you. You can just like go practice. It's like Plunker, but on your own app. So that's nice. And let's go back. But in our community, like in the Angular community, and we're part of the Angular community, we come up a question like, how do we migrate from Angular 1 to Angular 2? And right now, there's a lot of articles, really good articles that talk about it. Like the first thing is you can start using ES6 and ES7 on your Angular 1 application. The next thing is like you can use components already now, and everything is a directive, and you can start doing that now. And then the only thing that's left is the syntax, the Angular 2.0 syntax. And so a guy from our community, it's not me, it's just a really smart guy from our community, said, okay, let's take care of that as well. So he wrote a library that's called Angular 2.0 now. And it's already released in Bower, so it's not like a Meteor specific thing. And so you can use it even if you're not on Meteor. And it just created polyfills, so you can take that one step further. And you can use actually Angular 2.0 syntax on your Angular 1.0 application. So how does it look like? Just a second. Okay. So again, I have a parties app, but it's all the time it's like design different, so forgive me about that. And it's this time it's more similar to our tutorial. We have maps, and you can search for a party, and this search is happening like in real time across the server. But if you look at the code, this is a very interesting code. So you can see those are ES6 modules. But this is the code. So you can see it starts like nicely, like a little bit like Angular 2.0, and you have a component with a selector like Angular 2.0, and you have a view like Angular 2.0, and a class and a constructor, but then you have a scope. So you can, and actually think about if you do that with John Papa as SileGuide, this was this dot page and everything. So you can choose what types of syntax from Angular 2 you take, and you can migrate already today in a way. And I think this is stuff that we in our app already started using, and there's really cool stuff about Angular 2.0, so we want to use them now. And that's exactly like, you can use that if you're just thinking about migration, or you can use that if you want to use, you think, oh, that's a really cool syntax Angular 2 did, let's use it now. And again, we're going to do the same with this syntax to do the full tutorial, and so you can compare actually Angular 1, Angular 2 now, and Angular 2 side by side, and learn everything you want. Now for my last goal, make you all full stack developers. So let's say right now we're developing on our mean stack, and we're front-end developers, and we've written our logic on the Angular side, and now we need to do some logic on the server side. So usually what we do is just we're sending the data to the server, and then we say to the server guys, okay, do your server things, and save your data in your database server thing, and send us the data back, and when you're done, and we'll wait for you here. Thank you. And then the server guys are coming back to you and they say, oh, really? This is our job? Nah. Now we're isomorphic, so you can do it yourself. Go ahead, do the job. But are we really isomorphic? I mean, everyone keeps saying that word, but I don't think they mean what they think it means. So, okay, you can write JavaScript everywhere, but still the same party has a different name in each place, right? You have, in the DB it looks like something one, so how can you share code like that? There's so much to learn. So, in Meteor, actually the party has the same name everywhere, so you can actually write the same function, the same syntax, everything is the same, and you can just run that function on the client side, on the server side, or both, which this is what latency compensation is all about. You run the function on the client side, then it runs again on the server side, and the server knows more than the client, so it can revert the changes if we need. So now with Meteor, we have the same language, we have the same database API, and I think this is true isomorphic. But in Angular-Meteor, we thought of taking that one step further. What if I told you that you can write Angular on the server side? You don't need to learn a new language, you can just write Angular code. So we're introducing our Angular server. So let's, again, I'm not gonna talk about it too much, I'm just gonna show code. So I have a very simple application here of oceans. And then this application turn into a less nice application of to-dos. So it's a very simple application, I'm writing stuff, my new task, and it's added. And there's also a button here that's try $HTTP, which what this button does is actually trying to get this picture from somewhere on the internet. So I'm clicking on it and nothing works. And if I'm looking at the console, I see that there's a problem because I'm trying to call like this URL from my client side. So it's cross-origin, I can't do that. And that's a problem. So let's look at the code, maybe try to debug this thing. So this is our, let's look at the code. So we have this button here that's called try HTTP, and it's just calling a regular function, get image URL. And get image URL, just call this service here that I'm getting from dependency injection, and it's doing get data. And what this service does is very, very simple service. It just go get data, it's doing $HTTP and getting some image back. But that's a problem. Like, I wish I could just like take this data file and I could just like, I don't know, drop it in my server folder and that's it, right? I wish it would work. Like, I just like go and take my client-side code and drop it in the server folder. So let's try it now. Holy crap. So it's the same file, it's the same code, it's your Angular code, it's just running on the server. So, and this is something we're actually using right now. It's like, it's in alpha, but we're actually using right now on our production apps. And it made a lot of, it saves us a lot of code, and like Angular did on the front end, it did a lot of order and organize in our backend code. So another thing, let's look at how it does, let's look at how it does like adding new, the new task. So I'm calling here, again, the to-dos manager, but this to-do manager is sitting on my server. So I don't need to do like a get, post, delete, everything. I'm just calling a regular JavaScript, like a regular Angular, a regular Angular service, and that's it. So that's Angular server. And you can just go try it out. Like, you can use your existing applications, you can use your existing knowledge, your existing third-party libraries, whatever they are. And yeah, and I just want to thank Netanel Gilad, which is my partner, and we're working together, and he's the guy who like came one day and said, oh man, let's write Angular on the server. And he did that, and that's pretty amazing. And thank you.